Hello, welcome to the Alexandra Show. I'm your host, Alexandra, and on today's episode, we have Steve Ferreira, who is a master barber here in Boston and also an educator. So I'm so excited. We're going to talk about all things industry, growth, and haircuts. Hi, welcome to the Alexandra Show. I'm your host, Alexandra, and today we have Steve Ferreira, who is a master barber, an educator, all the things in the industry, and we're excited to talk about all things hair, industry, education, and all that today.
Excited to be here.
Yay.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So Steve and I met, I think back, was it 2017 or 18?
Something like that.
Something like
it
that.
was a few years ago. It was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. And we met at a class, right? It was actually at my old salon. We were taking a class with Jay Mahmood, who's like an incredible hair cutter. Amazing. And so he was teaching a class, and you and a bunch of guys from your barbershop came. Mm-hmm. And I was super impressed with that because a lot of barbers, I feel like now it's changing. Now it's changing, but I feel historically like barbers knew just how to do one thing and wouldn't necessarily take a class in like women's hair cutting or long hair cutting or anything like that. So I remember just being really, really impressed with you guys that you were even there.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we just are super into, like, me and all my friends, like all like the barber homies are just like super into cutting hair. So we didn't really care. It's like, it's precision haircutting, and you're just learning shapes and structure and moving weight around and stuff like that, and precision, and it really applies especially to like shorter haircutting that you do in the barbershop. So we just kind of saw an opportunity to kind of marry the two things. Yeah. So we started showing up and taking like hairdressing classes.
I know, I love it.
Fun, you know?
No, I love it. And I love that it's brought the industry together, because I do feel like this is everywhere, not just Boston, that you know, it's like the one area in the world that's still kind of segregated, you know what I mean, in a lot of ways. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, you know, that's a different route, but like, even just with men's and women's hair cutting, you know, like people ask all the time, like, oh, do you guys do men's hair cutting? I'm like, oh yeah, it's all the same, you know, it's like, but I remember being really impressed with you guys, and I remember thinking like, oh, these guys have such like a dope style, like you're all like dressed and, you know, you're tatted up, but at the same time super professional. And then we became Instagram friends, like, you know, that's always how it goes. Yep. And just stayed in touch over the years. And then when I was opening Petalluda, I came to you in advance asking if you would do our men's cutting education.
Yeah, and I gladly accepted because it's the best.
So good.
It's been fun.
Yeah, no, really good. So I'm going to back up a little bit, and I want to hear about your journey in the hair industry, because we actually have a little bit more in common. Yeah. That we found out later in life.
Well, I failed my way into it. I totally failed my way into it, like, that's for sure. Like, I went to college, I got out of Northeastern, where you went to.
Yeah, and so that's what we discovered, that we were both in Northeastern at the same time. Yeah. I mean, Steve does have like a couple years on me, a few years on me.
One or two.
Like 5, whatever. And so we were in school at the same time, and it was so funny, because I was like, oh my God, were we like at the same frat parties? And he was like, definitely not. I was not at the frat party.
I was not at the frat parties. I was like living in Alston at that point. I was doing more the hipster thing. But yeah, I mean, like I got out, and like I just could not.
What did you study at Northeastern?
Well, I went in originally as like a media arts and design major, and then I just burnt out on it. And
I think it's interesting though, because I started out as psychology, and then was like, I don't want to be a therapist, and switched to communications. Yeah. But people ask me all the time, oh, like, what do you think you don't use your degree? And I'm like, psychology and communications, I use that shit every day. So I ended up, so it's kind of the same with you, like being in the media arts.
Well, so I ended
up very relevant.
I ended up in sociology with a minor in communications, with an art background. So it's like literally using everything all day, every day. Like I'm actually using my degree, like not directly, like I'm not like I didn't go become like a college professor or a probation officer, which is what you would do, or a social worker. But like literally, I study people, I communicate with people, and I like draw all day because that's literally what haircutting is. You're just drawing all day. Like, So
So you got out of college and you were like, I don't want to do any of those things.
Nope. And then I worked and I needed a job. I didn't want to move home with my parents. I took a temp job at John Hancock in annuity broker services, which I didn't realize that I just got myself a call center job. Oh. But I kept failing up in that. They liked me, so they were like, you want to move to California? I moved to California for a year. My friend had a record label. It was kind of popping off back east, so I quit that. So I moved back east. I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife, also through him, and she's been cutting hair since like the 90s because she went to a vocational high school.
Oh, that's awesome. See, people are sleeping on the vocational schools. You know, we had a different path where we went to college first and then got into hair. But the vocational schools, like, it's really incredible what you can do and come out of high school, because so many people don't know what they want to do with their lives, you know, and can put themselves into debt going to college and all this stuff, and then realizing, like, wait, I don't even like this at all, which is, again, why I think Northeastern is so awesome, because you get to do co-ops and potentially explore and see, like, do I like this thing or not before you go down a whole path. But vocational schools are amazing, and I think we need to bring more of it back.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let my kid go to school and get herself into like $200,000 in debt.
Right?
Because like, it's like for what? You know? So
yeah.
So I don't know. I did that for a little bit. I had another job that didn't work out, and eventually my wife was just like, "You should just go to barber school." And I was like, "I can do that." And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." So that's how I got into that. Is literally I failed my way into barbering. But I think.
So when was that?
Oh, that was like 10 or 11 years ago at this point. That was a while.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. 10 or 11 years, though.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty impressive for how far you've come in the industry.
Thank you. I mean, I was cutting hair on the floor at a barber shop before I was even cutting hair on the floor in barber school.
Come on.
Yeah.
How's that?
Awful. Like, I got a crash course. It was like I was working at my man's shop in Everett. Long, who gave me my first shot working in the shop. I worked there for like a year and a half after school. He's a great guy. And it was like right before Thanksgiving, and he was like, "You have your stuff?" And I was like, "Oh," I thought I was sweeping and answering the phone. He's like, "Yeah." I only took like a couple of clients. I butchered all of them. Like again, I've just failed my way through this whole career. Everything I've done has just been a failure. But I keep failing up and making it better.
I mean, I would beg to differ, but like, okay.
A little humility goes a long way, you know. I mean, So I mean, I don't know. Like that's kind of how I got into it, and then I met up with Evan from Barbers then. My boy Drew had already started working there, and my wife's cousin did some early graphic design for the den, so I had a plug. When it was time for my next thing, I went over there. I did that for 6 years. I helped open up the Somerville location. I love those guys. And then it was time for my next thing. And that's when I met
you, because you were working with Barbers Den.
Yeah.
And I was talking a little bit about the industry, and like, I love what you guys collectively have done to bring the industry together.
Nice.
And I think that is super powerful, and it just creates such a nice culture, because I think in a lot of industries, but specifically in artistic ones, people can look to each other as competition, which is just so foolish.
Yeah.
Because when we come together, we can all rise.
Yeah.
And we are not competition. You know, there are always more clients than there are stylists or barbers. Right?
Yeah. The only competition is yourself.
Right.
Like the person who you were yesterday and who you want to be tomorrow. Like and that's the only person you're competing with. Like it doesn't matter. Like I love like just hanging out with other people that are in the industry that are doing things, and like I'll look at people and I'll be like, wow, like that person's on their second shop. Like that would be cool. Like, or wow, like I'm horrible at managing staff, and this person's got like a full staff and everybody seems like they're happy. It's like I look at that and I get inspired. I don't look at it like it's competition, or you know, like I'll look at some people sometimes. I'll be like, man, I wish I was getting cooler haircuts. But then I'm sure a lot of people are looking at me and they're just like, well, yeah, you know what? He's got like a high end clientele and they don't really get cool haircuts. So there's always something to look at with somebody else, like that you could take from somebody else rather than being like trying to compete with them or like support them. It's being a little older now too. It's been nice, like when I hear from like a younger person that's ready for their next thing and they're like picking my brain for advice, like that means a lot to me. I was talking to like a younger barber today who's ready to do kind of like the next phase in their career, and I was giving them some advice and, you know, pricing, not feeling bad about making the changes you need to make. And it's nice, instead of competing, which I think like 20, 30 years ago, you'd be like, oh, you work at another shop, I'm not talking to you. And now it's like, yeah, hit me up, I'd be happy to talk to you about it, you know? Like, you and I have become great friends, and it's just through hair.
Right.
And it's not like, oh, they're a bunch of girls that work in a salon. It's like, well, what can I learn from them? Like, I met you working at a nice place on Newberry Street, and it's like, cool. Like, this is a little aspirational. Like, we're just cracking out haircuts all day. They work in this nice salon in a nice street, in a nice zip code, like doing nice stuff. Like, let's get a little bit of that going. You know, like that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, totally. And then it's funny because you come in and I'm like, what? These guys are dope. They got like cool style, you know, where like, you know, at my previous salon, it was like a little more buttoned up, you know, and it's nice to let our hair down a little bit sometimes.
I think you guys are striking a nice balance where people come in here and it's a place and it's like, you know, you're going to get professional treatment, but you guys aren't uptight, and you girls are all very stylish and like nice, and like you guys are all
Thank you.
on top of your game. So it's like you kind of get that best of both worlds where it's like a stylish person who's cool is going to also give you that high-end kind of experience, but not in a stuffy setting. And that's like my vibe. Like that's kind of the space that I like to live in.
Yeah.
So I find I keep connecting with people like you or Patty or like some of my other friends like in New
Patty,
York.
who owns Love and Mercy and Lamb, shout out. She's another awesome industry connector. So
she's amazing.
What's up? Yeah, she's amazing.
Her and Josh are like two people I actually really admire.
Yeah.
I love what they do. I love the second shop. I love how they treat their staff. I just like everything they do. And I don't know, it's just like I keep connecting with people that are, I feel like we all kind of are in the same space, whether you're like a barber or a hairdresser, or like you could be somebody who owns a gym or a restaurant or whatever, but you're all kind of like got the same mentality. You're in the same place where it's not like super stuffy or it's like some anything goes, we don't respect the space type of vibe, which, you know.
You hit on a really important point, and that's what I love so much, and it's something that I talk a lot when I'm teaching, is that you can be professional and still be authentic.
Yeah.
You can take care of your clients and still run a business. A lot of these things can happen simultaneously, and I think that historically, or in present time, at certain places, people think you have to be this, you know, uptight, stuffy, in order to run a successful business, because the alternative is unprofessional. And there are unprofessional situations, you know, like I have my Dunkin' here for the podcast, but I'm not going to have my Dunkin' on my station when I'm doing hair. Right? And there's different lines of professionalism, and you can still run a business and be professional without being uptight and without being totally unprofessional.
Yeah.
Am I making sense, or am I just repeating myself in circles?
I mean, one thing that I think definitely hurt barbering for a long time was like the lack of like any sense of formality for a long time. It's like neighborhood thing, no frills. You come in, but you go to a barber shop and there'd be chairs everywhere, like waiting area chairs, and half the chairs would have a piece of like electrical tape because the chair split, and instead of throwing it out or getting it fixed, they said just put a piece of tape on that. So it's not anything. It's like, yeah, it's a neighborhood shop, but people are coming in treating it like they're hanging out in the basement, and it's like it doesn't really scream this is a professional place.
Right.
So then when barbers are like, well, I want to charge more money, it's like, well,
you can't
because
with tape on your seat.
Yeah, with tape on your seat. Your clippers have electrical tape on them. Like, you know, this people doing whatever, coming in and out of the shop all day, and it's like, it's not a professional place. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be that old school stereotype of the kind of mean hairdresser. Mean, uptight, snobby.
I can't stand that.
You know,
I actually got told a story recently by a client who was visiting a friend in another state and went to have a blowout somewhere, and how the stylist was mean to her, and it sent rage through my body, because we are in this industry to bring out the best in people and make them feel good. If you don't feel better than when you walked in here, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
And it infuriates me when stylists think they can be condescending or speak ill to someone, or it infuriates me when people are like that to their client and then forget about it to the staff. Yeah, because it used to be like that mentality when you're an assistant just out of hair school, you're an intern, you're like just doing all the grunt work. And it's, yes, there are, you know, less pleasing jobs. Dishes got to get washed, like the floor's got to get swept, the trash has to be taken out. These things have to happen. But one, in my opinion, everyone should be doing them.
Yeah.
And two, it doesn't make you less than.
Do you feel like part of the problem is you come into a shop as like a stylist, you have the mean boss, The mean boss then instills that mean quality in you, and you were like the low man or woman on the totem pole for so long that then when you have the opportunity, instead of being like, I'm not going to do this, you turn around and do it to the next person.
Yeah, it's absolutely like sorority or fraternity hazing. Where, oh, it happened to me, so now it's going to happen to someone else. It's like, well, fuck that. Break the cycle.
It's just crazy.
Break the cycle.
I would never go pay a person for a service where I'm being made to feel like I'm an idiot. And yet and this is one of those things where there's all different types of people who provide hair services for all different types of clients. But I know personally my clients are going to come to me because I'm always nice to them. And like, they're going to get the haircut they want. I'm not going to talk down to you because like, you didn't name your haircut correctly.
Right.
Like I hear stories about like people snapping at their clients because they don't know the right way to ask for a certain type of bang, or they describe the fade incorrectly.
It's like, your job to educate them. It's you, like, as a stylist, it is our job to educate our clients. And I have these conversations with my clients all the time. You know, they'll come in and ask for, oh, I want a balayage. And I say, oh, can you show me pictures? Because balayage is a technical term for a way that you highlight hair.
Right.
It's not a look.
Right.
Clients don't know that.
Layering.
Nor should they. Nor should they. It's not their responsibility to know that. When I go to a professional for another service, I'm relying on them to tell me, right? Because I don't know these things. We're working with Devaney. What up, girl? And she is our videographer.
Right.
I don't know what kind of camera she needs to use. I don't know what kind of mic she needs to use. I'm not going to tell her, oh, can you come in with a max350mic.com? She'll be like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Because I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's not my responsibility to. I depend on her for her expertise, as my clients depend on me for my expertise. And it is our responsibility to educate them without shaming them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That was a microphone I just dropped.
That was a great sound.
It was the microphone. It was the microphone350.com mic.
Is that an actual mic?
No. I mean, is it? No. No, I just made it up.
Yeah.
It's the metaphorical mic drop. It's the microphone that we drop.
The metaphorical mic drop. Yeah, I mean, it's such a great job too. Like, it's a privilege that I don't have to work a job that I hate anymore. So I get to work a job that I actually really enjoy. So like, it's special to me. Like, I take the work seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. So I don't feel like I'm too good to like.
Say that one more time, because I feel like that is exactly it.
Yeah, I don't like. It's not about me.
I take the work seriously.
Yeah,
I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah, I take like my client's experience seriously and the environment of my shop seriously, but like. I'm not special. You could go to somebody else. There's a million other people that do great haircuts.
I talk about this all the time, and people get frustrated with me sometimes because I'll say, I'm not the best hair cutter. I'm not. I am not the best hair cutter on earth. If Vidal Sassoon himself came down from the heavens above and watched me cut hair, he would probably have a heart attack. I am not the best hair cutter, but I am the best hair cutter because I give my clients what they want.
Yes. You are the best hair cutter for your clients all the time. Because a lot of times they might not want to go to Vidal Sassoon.
Right? So I may not be the best, most precision, technical, et cetera, but I listen to my clients, I give them what they want, and I do it well.
You do.
Thanks.
I've seen it.
Thanks. I know. I remember, I actually had the pleasure of working with Steve and his wife Erin for a few weeks.
That was a lot of fun. That was like camp.
Was really fun. Summer camp. We had a little summer camp last year. It was when we were, Petaluma was opening and we were waiting for permits to pass. And I had a little lapse in my employment. So because of that, Steve had generously offered that me and some of the girls that were coming with me could come work at your shop. And I remember being nervous because I'm like 16 years deep in the industry. What year is it? Is that right? Am I doing math? Is my mathing? It's unclear. But you work around the same people all the time. And then to have another two artists who you respect their work really well, seeing you work, all of a sudden you start feeling, oh my gosh, what are they thinking of my work or this or that? And I remember most of my clientele is long hair and this and that, but I had a men's short hair cut come in when I was working at your shop, and I was like, fuck.
Oh, I don't care.
Because I know. I was like, I was all nervous. You know, I'm like, oh, he's going to be watching me, telling me I'm doing this wrong, that wrong. And then he's like, no, that was awesome.
I think you hit a certain point with like your friends where it's like everybody that I'm friends with is like good at their job. Like if you were whack at doing hair, like I don't think we'd really be like friends outside of like, oh, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna hang out like you know, with all humility, I do think I'm pretty good at what I do. I don't know how to use hot tools and like style women's hair. I don't have any passion towards blow drying longer women's hair, so I kind of tend to stay away from it. But like the space that I live in, where it's like short to mid-length hair, you know, men's and women's now at this point too. Like I feel like I'm pretty good at it. You know what I mean? And
I think so too.
Thank you. And like so, it's like I feel like anybody that I hang out with, whether it's you or Aaron or Patty or like, you know, like any of my friends, it's like everybody's good at it because we're all passionate about it. We all care, you know, and again, it's like, I could be friends with somebody who maybe isn't on the level of like you or somebody else, but it's like, I want to see that that person's working to get there. Like I just wouldn't hang out with like some bummy barber or like some bummy hairdresser where it's like, you're mailing it in, you have a bad reputation, like people know your work ethic isn't that good because you are kind of the company you keep. So I want to be around people that kind of keep me on my toes too. Like when you guys came in, I was like, oh wow, I was impressed. Like the efficiency with how you guys work, the way you were with your clients, you guys are super considerate. Like it's a tight space and you guys were like super tidy and like wicked nice and pleasant to be around. We were never like, oh God, it's getting too tight in here. We were like kind of bummed when you guys left, to be honest. We're like, oh, what are we gonna do now? You know, so, you know, I mean, I think you end up kind of finding your people, like, you know, and people that are on the same level and like hanging out with you will make me better because I'll pick up some good habits that you have because I can get pretty casual. So it's nice to see you all and be like,
I remember one of my clients, I had a client in there was getting a full dimension hair color and extension. So she was there for a good chunk of time. And we, for a little bit of time, we were just quiet listening to you and your client's conversation. And we were cracking up because it wasn't even anything crazy, but it was just like bro talk. Like it was like total bro talk. And I looked at her at the end of the appointment. I was like, I got to get a barber in my shop, don't I? And she was like, yeah, you do.
You won't like it for long, but.
So you brought up some great points I wanted to touch on that I think are really important for anyone who's either starting in the industry or someone who's been in the industry for a while and kind of struggling with their direction is specializing. My opinion is that you should know how to do everything, but it's okay to specialize. I think a lot of people think they don't want to specialize. It makes them nervous. Oh, I'm not going to have any clientele. I need to do everything. I think you need to know how to do everything because one, to your point earlier about haircutting, all the techniques and theory of haircutting are the same whether they're applied to long or short hair. It's just applied differently.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that, okay, what am I, Mr. Mackey all of a sudden? So I think it's good to know how to do everything, but it's also okay to specialize.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
It used to drive me crazy when I started out as a barber that I would struggle when someone wanted longer hair cutting. I knew I was bluffing my way through it. Because when I was really starting out barbering, it was generally like shorter haircuts. You know, like pretty short, like my length or maybe a little bit longer. And so I think coming from a salon or coming from a barber shop, it might be different because really you're just cutting hair, doing beards, maybe shaves. But I did feel like, it drives me crazy that I don't know how to do everything. So I sought it out, like learning how to like do precision hair cutting, longer hair cutting, styling hair, learning about products. But then after a while, it's like, once you've got your base, I feel like specialization is good because then you can kind of build a niche for yourself. What I've kind of found over time is that there's two things. My clientele tends to be a little bit more white collar, so they're not getting like really funky haircuts. So when I get a younger person in that wants like a funky haircut, it's like, it's really fun for me because I don't get to do it all the time. Like that's not what I specialize in. Whereas I have friends that their clientele definitely has a more artsy look and they're doing vivids, they're doing really, really funky haircuts all, you know, all day, every day. So that's like more specialty work too. So like I specialize in just really clean haircutting, you know, like wearable haircuts, functional haircuts. Like that's what I really kind of pride myself on, like good grow outs. So I do consider that specialty work. But I think when you're first starting out, it's like you need to just kind of start doing everything.
Well, and there's a piece of it, you kind of have to try everything to see what you like. Because you may think you like one thing and then you do it. You're like, oh, this is not actually what I thought it was.
I think a lot of the time, too, it kind of comes down to you're going to build this clientele. And really a lot of it comes down to your personality and what personality you have with your clientele. And I can look across my clientele and I might have some outliers like here or there. But for the most part, I feel like if you took a bunch of my clients and put them all in the same room, they're all going to get along.
Right.
And you probably find that too.
Absolutely.
So I find that that's the real specialty work. It's just that because I'm deliberate in what I do and how I take photos of clients, it looks like I have more of like a look than maybe I even intended to.
Right.
But you end up specializing in certain looks. And then your clients are like, wow, you did a really good job on that haircut. Give me that too.
Right.
So you end up finding the things that you're good at, what you like, what you don't like. So you end up becoming a specialist whether you want or not. I think once you get to that certain point, it's good to kind of dig your heels in and be like, yeah, this is what I do. And that guy over there, if you want what I do, he's not going to be able to give it to you as well as I can. The same thing, I'm not going to be able to do what you do as well as you do. So it makes you more unique. So I think people should own that.
Well, and it's also how you want to spend your days.
Yeah.
I like hair cutting. I don't love it. I never want to only do color and have another stylist cut my hair, because some cities and states and stylists, that's how they do. You go to one person for color and one person for hair cutting. I always want my hands on both. I don't want someone else cutting my color. But do I love a day of like 10 haircuts back to back? No.
No, that seems to be the consensus among successful colorists, is that they're just like, oh my God, this is a lot.
So I have a very small percentage of my clientele that comes in just for cuts, but most of my clientele are color cuts and then color cut extensions. That's how I love spending my days.
Yeah, and I know on your side of things, specialization refers more to like, I'm just a cutter, I'm just a colorist. Like
or even people that just do blondes.
That's wild to me.
You know, and I would say I'm blondes, brunettes, and I can give you like a hint of red, but if you want your hair red, you gotta see Morgan or Allison or like, it's not me.
Yeah.
And we have that in our bios because I think that's important.
Yeah.
It's not my strength. I'm not interested in it enough to pursue my education in it. And I like what I do enough that I would rather refer you to one of the other stylists at Toledo.
It's kind of funny because I think on the barber side, it's like you specialize in fades. Like there are some people where it's just like fade, but it's like in the barber side, you're doing so many haircuts. You never take that step back to be like, I specialize in really crispy outlines, I specialize in fades, or I specialize in men's regulars, which is a thing too.
I remember the first time I heard that term, I never heard it.
It's such a horrible term.
It was one of my clients telling me her boyfriend or husband needed a new stylist because she said he just always goes in and asks for a men's regular, a boy's regular. I was like, what the heck even is that?
It's it's literally a haircut. That's it. That's like the best way I can. Maybe
I picture it with a part, like I picture like the financial banker haircut.
Yes, politician haircut.
Yeah,
that is the haircut. I guess you don't have to take a practical exam anymore, but that's when you take your barber license exam, you have to do a men's regular, and you can only use the clipper to taper out the neck. You have to use scissors to go. It's kind of funny because I was like, oh, I'll never outline with scissors after this. I'm just going to use my trim. I use my scissors to outline all the time for people who don't want like a strong outline.
It's so funny too. I've now been in the industry long enough to see trends come and go. And when I was in hair school, we weren't allowed to use our clippers. Like, I don't think I ever picked my clippers out of my toolkit. It was, you have to learn how to do a haircut with scissors only. And the way that they taught it at Paul Mitchell, and this may have changed by now, but was if someone's paying X amount of dollars for a haircut, it has to be with scissors. If you want clippers, you just go to the barber and they do a 2 all over, 1 all over, like whatever. And that was how it was thought of. But clipper work has now gotten so much more advanced.
Yeah.
And you can answer this for me. I don't know if it's gotten more advanced or if it's just gotten more publicly like advanced, or
I would say so. I think it kind of depends. I think there was probably a little bit of truth in both. I think in the cities, like more urban barbershops, dudes are always doing like incredible
crazy clipper work.
But it's like what people want now. Like I remember when you'd get a fade and they wouldn't necessarily use a foil shaver to get it to skin. It was just a closed clipper. Now it's like use the clipper, then you go underneath it with the trimmer, and then you use the foil shaver, and then you use a straight razor, and it's like a level of detail that I think has really come up, and people are starting to realize that there's a lot of art in that. And I think a lot of barbers don't give themselves enough credit because like we're working with a lot of internal shapes, bone structure, like the face shape thing's always debatable, but I think barbers are just cutting hair and they never took the step back to be like, wow, this is like crazy specialty work because I'm going to put the fade, I'm going to start it here as opposed to here because the way your bones sit, it's going to look better. You have a pronounced occipital bone. I'm going to line the fade over this or under this. And
I would agree with you. I think that a lot of barbers it probably comes pretty intuitively with.
Yes.
Is my guess, and that they are not giving themselves enough credit for how much they're thinking and taking all those things into consideration. Because some of the work out there is sick.
Yeah. I mean, it's specialty work because it's really like you could get it from a hairstylist now, but really like 10 years ago, those looks where it's a pompadour on top with a super tight fade. You couldn't find.
That's when I had to learn how to use clippers.
Yeah, you couldn't find that many places where the salon could give you that finish. And then a lot of the barbers couldn't do the scissor work.
Right.
So I decided I'm going to do both. Like that was literally like my whole game plan for barbering, and it's worked out, so yeah, it's interesting. It's like I like this little space that we're all in where it's just like people that are just like super into hair. I think barbering now with things getting so modern, it's more like the environment in the finish to the haircut, because you could use clippers as a hairdresser and the haircut's totally fine. But a barber is probably going to use the same tool and have a different appearance to the haircut. And at the end of the day, all a clipper is a tool. What's the difference between a clipper and a scissor at the end of the day? Whatever. Like, I'd rather have a good haircut with a clipper than a bad haircut with a scissor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And vice versa. Like, I could do your haircut with a clipper if I wanted to, but I don't think it's really the right tool for the job.
I enjoy that experience. I might be a little.
You might love it.
I might be terrified.
Yeah. Honestly. I know.
I'm joking.
Yeah. So it's all.
I don't even let anybody cut my hair. You kidding? I'm like, sew those extensions in. Let the ends fall off.
I know, right?
I'm the worst client. Art, don't you think hairstylists are the worst clients?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
You guys,
right?
Well, I mean, I never get haircuts. I never get it's like a miracle that I managed to get a haircut before. I was like, oh, you have to go get a haircut.
Yeah.
Before you go on a hair interview, you can't show up like that's the sign that your barber or hairstylist is like doing a good job is if they don't have a haircut.
Yeah.
Unless they're like 20 and they're going out all the time, it's like then you're supposed to just be cutting each other up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
On Friday night and then working hungover on Saturday. That's what you're supposed to do. But like at this stage in the game, if you're
I mean, I'm 7 years deep in not drinking, but I only came into work hungover once. I never made that mistake again. I mean, my hangovers were also epically massive, which is why I don't drink anymore. But I made that mistake once, and I was like, oh, this is not the job to be hungover for.
I made the mistake several times before I finally stopped drinking last year. So yeah, I'm with you. I can't wait to be 7 years in.
There you go.
I feel like I got my brain back.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Crazy. Wild. I'm like, man, how much of my life I wasted.
You get so much more done. Because I feel like one night of partying pushes you back 2 weeks.
Days, weeks, yeah.
It's like you wanted to do that podcast, and it's like, yeah, it's good to go out and enjoy yourself, but then it's like, you wanted to do that podcast on Sunday, but you went out on Friday, so now everything you were going to do on Saturday gets done Sunday. The podcast is getting pushed. You're not making it to the gym, or if you did go to the gym, you're just going to break even because you beat your body up so much the week before.
Yeah.
It's weird when you get a little older and you start growing up and you realize you have to do things that you need to do rather than just what you want to do, which is go out and party.
Well, and I think also what's fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it has, now that Petaluma is open and running, the work has dialed back a little bit, but for the year or so leading up to this, that's how I was spending pretty much all my nights.
Yeah, you were working.
There's a lot of behind the scenes. There's a lot of mental preparation. There's a lot of everything behind the scenes to get up and running. And it brought and continues to bring me a lot of joy. So I would rather be doing that on a Friday night than out, wasting money on whatever. But it's only a waste if you don't enjoy it. Just to be fair. do your thing, boo.
Not to turn this into like a health or anti-drinking podcast, but I will say, for every 10 times you go out, how many of them were actually like worth it?
I mean, I have some pretty funny stories.
I I have 20
That's another podcast for another day.
20 something years of funny stories, but for the amount of time I spent going out, I don't think the amount of funny stories I have is really. I mean, but yeah, I feel like we could do like a whole like after dark podcast.
Yeah, that'll be coming soon.
When I'm rich.
Yeah. That's what's gonna get us rich. One of the things that we both have in common, my stint was a little bit longer than yours, is that we worked for another salon for a good number of years before venturing out on our own. And I think the industry has changed a lot since I've been in it. You know, I started working in salons when I was 14, when I was in high school in Maryland. So as I have told you, it's been about 6 years that I've been in the industry. That's funny. You're not laughing. That was a joke.
Wait, I missed the joke.
I said I've been working in salons since I was in high school when I was 14. I've been in the industry for 6 years.
Oh, I didn't think it was
There it is.
I was like, wait, that math is
He's
wrong.
trying to do the math.
That math is wrong. I was like, wait, I wasn't going to put you on blast. I mean, you spent a lot of money to go to Northeastern.
He's like, I think you skipped addition.
I was like, wait a minute. I was like, how old am I?
It's all relevant.
It was a good joke. I just missed it.
But so I've seen the industry cycle through a lot of different phases. It used to be only commission salons. People only worked, under an umbrella as a commission salon. And then it went to booth renting. And that was a big push where people would work within a salon, but they would rent their chair. And these all still exist, by the way. But I feel like it's trended back and forth.
Sure,
and then it went to these salon lofts where people are working just on their own. They go rent a small little 200-300 square foot studio. It's just them. They're running their own business, but it's just them and their client. And now all of those things exist. I couldn't tell you which one is the most prominent right now. I think that they're all kind of equal from what I've observed at least. I do think there is a trend back towards commission salons because when you were talking earlier about kind of the bad bosses, the hazing kind of environment, that has shifted a lot.
Yeah.
So now people want to be a part of a community. At least that's my experience.
Yeah.
But all that to say that I worked as an employee, as a commission employee for a salon owner for 16 years behind the chair. So I worked in other salons before that when I was in high school, when I was in college, when I was in hair school. I worked in salons at all different phases of those times in my life. But then I was 16 years deep behind the chair as a stylist at a commission salon. And I think that there is a lot of people in this industry that think the way you make it is to be an independent contractor. That, I have to own my own business, or, I have to XYZ, I have to have a salon loft. That's not always the case. And owning your own business isn't always the end all be all for everyone.
Yep.
And, for me, it happened to be, for you, it happened to be, but it's not the only way to be successful in the business. And in addition to that, I'm assuming you agree with me, I think that so much of what I have learned, what has allowed me to be who I am today and be the leader that I am today at Petalluda is from all those years of experience.
Yeah, 100%. The industry is in like this weird fragmented place right now where there's like so many people that like want to go to salon suites and then other people want to open a shop. It seems like booth renting is kind of out right now. Like it's not in vogue. It's either these like high commission, high ticket price, gratuity free places is kind of the trend right now, or everyone's going independent. And the independent thing is cool, but it's like I definitely have mixed feelings on it. Like one thing I think is kind of odd is when you have someone rent like a 4-chair suite in one of these solo salons or whatever, and then they're like, I opened a salon, I'm hiring. It's like, well, you didn't pay for a build out. You probably just had to give first month's rent. I don't know how those places work, but when I had talked to them before, they were like, come down, give us first month's rent, you can open up now. That was a few years ago, so I don't know if it's changed. And it's like, well, how are you didn't pay for the build out the way you paid for a build out, which can be, this is a nice place. I'm pretty sure you're into it for a couple bucks.
Yeah, a couple.
So to turn around and be like, you didn't pay for anything, you're not giving them anything, but then you want to take a commission off of them. And the rents at a lot of these like suite places are astronomical. When you break down the square footage
for what you're paying. It's like you would have been way better off if you just took out that loan and built that shop and paid it back slowly over time, in my opinion. And I think Instagram makes it so everyone feels like they have to be a breakout star. They don't want to work for anybody else. They don't want to put that time in. I always felt like I wasn't ready, like I wasn't good enough. You know, there's also like a thing where there's this kind of dated thing where it's like, maybe in barbershops, like, oh, the best barber has to be the owner. And it's like, well, who's the best barber? Like, what does that even mean?
Right.
Like, you know, like, oh, he must be the best, he's the owner. It's like, well, no, the mayor of the city doesn't come down and say, well, you're the best barber, so we're going to give you a barbershop. Like, you know, so there's a lot of these things. I think a lot of the time.
I thought that's what happened to you. You don't have a key. You don't have the barber's key.
No, I haven't. Mayor Wu hasn't given me the key to the city yet. I'm waiting.
What's up, Brookline? I got that key.
It's I think a lot of the time, like what we're talking about is just like ego. It's like I have to be independent. I can't work for somebody else. Or people going out. It seems like a lot of people are going out way too early. They don't know how to run a business. They don't really know how to do anything except for like basic services. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're ready? Like, how are you ready? I know people that have worked at major salons that stay there for like 10 years. And it's, you know, and some people it's like, I think you're someone that was destined to own a shop. Like it's just in you. It's just in you to own your own place. And like, you have a great staff and it seems like you guys are running things really well. Whereas for other people, it's like,
we're really happy.
it's like they're just trying to force their will. Like, I'm going to have a shop. I'm going to have a bunch of staff. They're going to do what I tell them to do. I don't care. I'll be the bad guy. And it's like, are you managing people or are you being reactive when things aren't going right? Like, there's a lot of things that I'm seeing.
Well, and that's what, I mean, my long-term goal, and this is actually, because after, you know, I got my degree and then I worked for many years, and back in 2018, I actually went back to Northeastern and I got a certificate from their business school. So I didn't get a full MBA, but I got like half an MBA. And because I was like, I don't know jack about accounting. I didn't take any class. And I was like, I want to know enough about it. I'm going to hire an accountant, but I would like to understand my books enough to know like I'm not getting robbed, you know?
Right.
Because that also happens to people. And I think that something in our industry, again, I was at the beginning talking about these vocational schools. I think they're super important. My long-term goal for this industry is to make hairdressing a 4-year degree where you're learning the technical, how to cut hair, but you're also learning accounting, you're learning marketing, you're learning business, you're learning leadership. You're learning all those things because I think that historically what happens is someone becomes the busiest stylist in a salon, right? And they're looking around going, why am I not making, okay, I'm making more money.
Or I've hit a wall, I can't make more money here.
Right, but I'm not being treated any differently from other people, other stylists.
Yep.
And I've hit a wall, I can't make any more money. Okay, so boom, bye. I'm gonna go open a salon. And a lot of those salons unfortunately fail because they don't understand how to run a business.
Right.
And that's why I did all those things in my education so that I could be a little bit more prepared. So at least now when I'm talking to my accountant, I at least know what she's talking about.
Yes.
I kind of know, and I actually talked about this a little bit on one of my previous podcasts with Meg Huell about what the tipping point was for me. And there was a couple tipping points for me, but one of them, I'm not saying I'm the best, but I was seeing that I couldn't fit any more clients on my book. My clients were referring people to me. They couldn't get in with me. And so they were going to other stylists at the salon, which again, this is how a healthy salon works. I always benefited from the overflow from my boss and from more senior stylists at the salon. That's how I got a lot of my clientele because they couldn't get in with them or they wanted a less expensive price. So they would come with me and then that overflow, that trickle down, right? That's how the salon works. But it got to a point where I was like, damn, I am feeding so many stylists their clientele.
That's a business decision. That's not an ego decision when it's time for you to go open up your shop.
Right.
That is the writing is on the wall. It's time for me to do my next thing. You know, and you had the desire to do it.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Right. So what was that tipping point for you?
Well, you know, it was different because what had happened was my wife had worked in the space that we were in previously under a different owner. She went to the next block with her friend and helped her open up a shop. The owner she worked with had actually relocated out to Brookline. A new person took it over, wasn't working out. We had basically like
a couple of days, and I was like, get it, take it. Originally, I wasn't going to have anything to do with it. I was going to stay at the Barber's then, and it was great. Pandemic hit 6 months after we opened the place up. We had 1 month to turn it around. Put new floors in, threw some paint on, did what we could with it, limited budget. Like, this was one of those things where it was like, you've been saying you want this space for years. It's available. Go get it. Go get it. And it's like, it was a family business, but it was really her place. Like, I think sometimes there's been some confusion about that. Like, people act like I was there from the start, and I wasn't. There was another booth renter there. They ended up leaving after the pandemic. Didn't have anybody, and I saw her just in there by herself, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. She's paying all the rent. I love the shop, I love the homies, but I knew I needed to do the next thing. I wanted to be around less people. Like I've been saying, I'm not that interested in having a staff, maybe like one person if it's the right person, maybe two. And it was just time to do the next thing, and I was like, all right, so I'm gonna go to the shop, and we've changed everything, and some things have worked, and some things didn't work. We've renovated a lot, and it's been great, but I just knew it was time for something else, and I knew that no matter what, I think sometimes maybe I want to do things a little bit differently than the shop, and I wanted to focus on myself, and you have to take yourself out of that because it's not all about me when you're working at a shop with the guys.
Right.
So in order for me to focus on myself, start doing more education, kind of have my own brand, it was time for me to go, and that's how I ended up.
Yeah.
The long.
Well, it's been awesome. Yeah, it's been awesome to watch because now you have completely branched out. You started your own education here locally.
Yep.
I know you do the education for, like we were talking about, Patty at Love and Mercy. You do their men's barbering education as well. I brought you on to be the resident Petaluma cutting educator. Artist in residence. And so you started that, and now you are branching out even more with your education with the Left Brain Group.
I am.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I hope to travel the country and meet more people and teach more of my techniques and show people some of my mindset stuff and some of the business stuff and just show people how they can kind of take this career and make it something really awesome like you and I have been able to do. Because I feel like a lot of people get into this and they love cutting hair, but they don't feel like this is a great career or this is like something I could do for the rest of my life or like I'm doing too many haircuts, I'm doing too many colors, I'm not making enough. And I want to show people you can do this for as long as you want if you treat yourself right, mentally and physically. Physically, I mean, we could do an hour on that too. So.
I know. Yeah. To be continued because we just hit like 3 more podcast episodes. But legit, because you got to take yourself mentally and physically. If you don't take care of yourself mentally and physically in this job, bye, good night, goodbye. You're going to burn out in like 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, it took me like halfway through my career, and I also, my daughter was young, so it's like hard to go to the gym. You're doing 16 haircuts a day. You're just like slamming down a slice of pizza, drinking beers, so it's
You're drinking beers at work, kid.
Come on. Afterwards. So, finally got my act together a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to keep me behind the chair for a while.
Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, if you want to book a haircut in Boston, you can just go to parlorontremont.com. That's the shop. Instagram is at Steve Ferreira Hair. If you'd like to book me for a class at the Left Brain Group, you can reach out to them. I'd love to come to your shop or your salon. And if you want to follow the shop, it's at Parlor on Tremont.
Awesome. Well, to be continued. I think we just made 3 more podcast ideas. So we'll be back, hopefully with a sponsor.